Hey everybody, Arcade here, ready as spaghetti to give you my 2 cents on another game you've probably never heard about. Today, we take a look at A Hat in Time. Let's talk about it. A Hat in Time was released on October 25th, 2017 for Xbox One, PS4, and PC. What the hell is this game, man? Think back to your childhood for a second. The endless summers, hanging outside with friends, climbing trees, buying junk food from the ice cream man, letting your imagination wander, not having a care in the world, no worrying about work schedules, whether or not Lorraine from accounting received the memo that cankles are not work appropriate, or if you're going to finally have a mental break during the 3-hour traffic jam that stands between you and home. All you worried about was the thought of exploration, magic, and wonder. And there were games back then that seemed to capture the same sort of magic. Games like Spyro the Dragon, Banjo-Kazooie, and Crash Bandicoot. These charming platformers were seemingly abundant in the 90s and early 2000s, but slowly faded out of existence as time moved forward. And some developers aren't blind to this either. Whether or not they're simply out of ideas and want to be retro and hip, or they're genuinely missing the feeling of platformers of people's pasts is uncertain. The issue here, though, is that a good chunk of modern 3D platformers don't seem to have the same charm as their ancestors. The most recent example I can think of is Yooka-Laylee, a game that was supposed to be a spiritual successor to one of the most loved 3D platformers of all time, but instead ended up being an absolute garbage fire. But it is darkest before dawn, and finally, after so many years of disappointments, the light is beginning to shine down once again, in the form of a 3D platformer titled A Hat in Time. The premise here is simple. You play as some girl who literally just goes by some girl, or in some cases, some weird girl, who is trying to travel back to her home planet. What should be a smooth trip home, however, quickly descends into chaos, as a Mr. Mafia man breaks through her dashboard window, sending him, you, and all the ship's fuel into the planet below. From that point on, it's a collect-a-thon of old boy time tellers, eclectic Christmas gifts, and pon flan bon son don gon fon de wan se son bon fon gon ru de lon. You collect enough hourglasses, and you get to go back to your hometown planet. Story isn't the craziest, but it has likable characters, and carries the game along well. What's the presentation like, man? This game is absolutely popping with personality. The art style reminds me a little bit of Costume Quest, a little game from back in the Xbox Live Arcade days. The worlds you visit along your journey vary significantly with their themes, and each stand is memorable places to explore, from the beachside city of Mafia Town to the spooky swamps of Subcon Forest. These places are all well put together, individual in their playstyle, and a blast to explore. The music is also just as varied and full of character. This game's soundtrack varies drastically, yet there isn't one song I disliked. There's uppity exploration music, relaxing music reminiscent of themes from Final Fantasy games, speedy DDR music for you cokeheads out there, and even some music that makes you feel a little uneasy and on edge. Yet all of it still manages to fit with its respective level, all the while keeping a consistent tone throughout the entire game. There's also some voice acting here, which was both a surprise to me and well done. To be honest, I didn't listen to all of it, as there's always text on screen that you can read as well, but I did listen to every character speak most of their lines. It was nice to hear the variance in voices, and it added even more personality to these characters. While nobody is going to be winning an Oscar for their performance here, mainly because video games aren't in the Oscars, the voice acting is still nice, and I found it to be an excellent addition to the game. Altogether, this game has it going on in the visuals department. Definitely did a good old darn tootin' neato job with the presentation. Okay, but how does the game play, bro? Here's where my one gripe with this game finally pours out, but don't fret. It isn't too bad, unless after I tell you what it is, it makes the game completely unplayable for you, in which case, maybe, I don't know, calm down a little bit. The only issue I had with this game is that you seem to get caught up or clip through some obstacles every once in a while. It certainly doesn't make the game unplayable by any means, but from a technical aspect, it's just kinda not the best. I don't know, I felt that was worth mentioning. Otherwise though, A Hat in Time is a platformer that's got its controls just right. The controls are fluid and responsive as hell. The game's controls are as smooth as a butter baby's bottom. Not a buttered baby, but like a chunk of butter carved into the shape of a baby. By the time you're a couple hours into the game, you'll be bouncing, climbing, and web swinging your way around the maps in no time. The game's unique draw, which I should probably mention, is that you unlock different hats that give you different abilities. That's right, you heard me, hats. It's a simple concept, but it actually makes for some very unique gameplay experiences. I won't say too much because this game is full of surprises, and I wouldn't want to spoil it for anyone. But the gameplay here changes more than one may initially think. Adding this mechanic of hats made the game stand out as something unique. unique, and actually gives you a reason to revisit old levels in an attempt to reach previously unreachable locations. There's also badges that you can buy for your hats that will provide additional benefits, or in some cases detriments, to Hat Girl. This adds another little layer of fun customization to the game that I ended up experimenting with numerous times throughout my journey. What are my feelings on this old school platforming throwback? I dig it. I genuinely enjoyed the 7 or so hours I put into A Hat in Time. I actually had to stop exploring so much and collecting everything in fear of not getting this review out on time. The game by no means is very difficult, but what it lacks in challenge, it more than makes up for in fun gameplay and character. If you've been craving a good platformer recently, or just want a nice game to play on a lazy Saturday morning, I'd say A Hat in Time is something you should definitely look into. It'll only cost you a measly $30 for a damn good game that could easily net you 8 or 9 hours of playtime. And that right there is a good price point for a good chunk of content. And it's quality content too. Content's so good that if somebody stopped me in the street and asked for my opinion on it, I'd tell them that it's definitely worth full price. So that was my 2 cents on A Hat in Time. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, maybe support the channel by clicking the whatever, hitting that other whatever, and I'll see you all next week.